What is up, youth fam? My name is Blake Ferris. I'm one of your Hunter Park youth leads.
And I'm Taylor Terpstra, and I'm the online youth lead.
Man, thank you guys for joining us on our YouTube channel as we dive into this brand new series. And if this is your first time with Sandals Church Youth, man, I just want to say welcome. I love this place, and I want you to be all about it. And what that looks like is you can text the number that's at the bottom of the screen, and we'll get you guys plugged in to a group that you can be real with.
And speaking of getting connected, we would love for you to follow us on Instagram and TikTok to stay in the know of all things Sandals Church Youth. And right now, we're about to start a new series called Cultured. And it's about learning how to live for God in a world that doesn't.
Exactly. So let's get right into our message with our very own Vivi Diaz.
What is going on, Sandals Church Youth? Vivi here from the Hunter Park campus. Listen, I am so excited to be jumping in with you guys today because we're in February. First off, it's my favorite month. It's my birthday month and Valentine's Day. Who doesn't love it? I know there's a lot of you that actually don't, so whatever. But it's a new month and a new series, and we are going to be spending time over the next several weeks diving deeper actually in the weekend's message, but going through our whole own series called Culture. Living for Christ in a world that doesn't. And I'm really excited. So listen, if you're a Christian out there, if you're sitting there and you would say, yeah, I'm a Christian, you're going to want to lean in and take notes over the next few weeks. And maybe you're out there and you're like, no, it's not my thing. My mom made me come, whatever. Like, listen, we can agree that the world is pretty messed up sometimes. So I guarantee there's going to be something in the next few weeks that will probably add some value to your life. So listen up. But since we're in February, it got me thinking about February last year. As a church, we started going through this series called Non-Negotiables. And it was this whole series about like dating, because February, love, all the things. But it was the idea of these are the things that have to be in a relationship. So then it kind of just got me thinking, what are the deal breakers in relationships? Like what are the things that, no. This is a thing that we are not going to have a relationship. So it got me thinking. So then I asked. So I need to share with you guys, and some of you might even be thinking right now, what are your deal breakers when it comes to relationships? I want to share. Should I do guys or girls first? I'm going to go with girls first. So girls said this. So guys, listen up, take some notes, do your thing. It goes Jesus and then what girls think are deal breakers. Here we go. Take notes. So girls said when they don't text first. Guys, take initiative. Here we go. Some girls said self-absorbed. I don't think anyone likes that if we're being honest. This one hits home for me. Loud chewing. Not a fan either, honestly. Being real, our vision at Sandals Church Youth and Sandals Church. This is such a good one. Not good hygiene. Listen, they even wrote, make sure they're changing their clothes, make sure they're wearing deodorant, make sure they're showering. Someone said if they're rude to their parents. That is a good one. And I don't think that gets old. That's for sure a deal breaker. Here we go. When they don't reply, these are things that girls are not into. And lastly, I'll leave it with this one. When they keep you a secret. So guys, girls don't want to be kept a secret. Those are some deal breakers. But here were some deal breakers for the guys that it just got me laughing. Coming in hot, we get a weird laugh. What? One guy said a deal breaker for him is if a girl has a weird laugh. So maybe that's not your guy. But this one is the one that really set me. It said, guys said deal breakers are when they send animals a lot. And then another guy chimes in and goes, oh, yeah. Can you add on the list when they put fluffy cows? These are some of the deal breakers that guys have. And some of the other guys also said, when a girl doesn't love Jesus, when she doesn't love church, when she doesn't treat her parents well. So a lot of different deal breakers, and all of us, no matter if you're sitting there listening, okay, yeah, those are deal breakers for me too or not. But I guarantee that even there are some of you listening to those deal breakers and thought, man, I hope I'm not a deal breaker. I hope I don't fall on that list. And isn't that just such a picture sometimes of how we live our lives. Like, I don't want to be a deal breaker. Like, I'm trying to measure up. I'm trying to level up. And I just don't want to be a deal breaker. But here's the thing, when it comes to relationships specifically, obviously no one wants to be a deal breaker. Like, no one wants to feel like they're not enough. No one wants to feel like they're too much. And this even goes beyond relationships. It can go into a job. Those of you that are trying to get jobs one day, it can go into your schoolwork, the type of athlete you are, whatever it is. No one wants to be a deal breaker to not make whatever it is. And so for me today, regardless of what deal breakers are, here's what deal breakers mean. It means they keep you from relationship. And so as we're starting this brand new series, I want to start it off here with something real for me. And it's this. I want to talk about the biggest deal breaker for me when it comes to God. Okay, so we're going to be diving deep into that because for me, this is what that deal breaker was. It was that, yes, I get that this God of the Bible, he lived this life. I want it. Like, there are a lot of things that sound great about it. He says that his way, or that he is the way, the truth, and the life. But then I thought to myself, like, there are so many different religions in the world. How do you know that Christianity is the way, the truth, the life, And a lot of these thoughts honestly came to me when I was a teenager. And for me, part of why those thoughts kind of rattled me is because the Christians that I did know were hypocrites. The Christians that I did know, it didn't seem fair. Like, just this idea that your way is the right way. What makes the other religions wrong? And who's to say, And like, again, the fact that all the Christians I knew felt like they were hypocrites. And through this tension, honestly, that was the biggest deal breaker for me. Like, what makes Christianity different? But here's what I learned. There is a difference. And so today, as we are going to be starting off in Romans chapter 2, I want to let you know that I want to share with you what that difference is, and that I really do believe that God wants us to know that there is a difference, but also what that difference means for you in your life, and that it can change everything. So let's go ahead and pick up in Romans chapter 2, verse 17. I'm going to just read it through. So if you're tracking on something, here we go. Verse 17. You who call yourselves Jews are relying on God's law, and you boast about your special relationship with him. You know what he wants. You know what is right because you have been taught his law. You are convinced that you are a guide for the blind and a light for people who are lost in darkness. You think you can instruct the ignorant and teach children the ways of God, for you are certain that God's law gives you complete knowledge of truth. Listen, this is such a quick picture, quick context to what's happening. So Paul, he's writing this letter to basically the Romans and to people that live in Rome. And he's talking to all these Jews. Jews are the people that are marked God's people. They're typically like very religious people. So he's talking to the people that like are playing the game, but he's telling them like, you think all these things. And I even just so relate to this, like how are all these religious people that don't know me supposed to tell me how I should live? And I don't know if you've ever felt that before, and then they want to judge me for something that they're not even doing. I don't know if you guys have felt that either, but here's Paul in verse 21. He goes, well then, if you teach others, why don't you teach yourself? I love Paul. He just like lays in. You tell others not to steal, but you steal. You say it's wrong to commit adultery, but you commit adultery. You are so proud of knowing the way, but you dishonor God by breaking it. No wonder the scriptures say the Gentiles blaspheme the name of God because of you. The Gentiles are people that weren't necessarily marked by God in the traditional sense before Jesus came, but they're people that because Jesus came were able to know God. And so basically the religious people are always in conflict that these aren't God's people, we are. And Paul's over here being like, well, no wonder they're using the Lord's name in vain because look at the way you're living. But then he really starts going in on them. In verse 29, he goes, a true Jew is one whose heart is right with God. A true circumcision is not merely obeying the letter of the law. Rather, it is a change of heart produced by the Spirit. A person with a changed heart seeks praise from God, not from people. Listen, that's pretty packed in Romans chapter 2. And so I just want to let you know right now, today's message is going to be one that's either going to grow and mature your faith or honestly give you a reason to start one. So with that, here's your first point. Christianity is about relationship. Write that down somewhere on your phone, on your hand, whatever. Christianity is about relationship. And I know this might seem like a point that's like, duh. Some of you guys are even fluent in Christianese. Like, I have a relationship with God. Like, I want a guy that has a relationship with God. You guys get it. But here's the truth. So many of us find ourselves in exactly what Paul is calling out people in Rome. He's saying, you want the title, but not the actual relationship. Could you imagine if we did that? Like, hey, I want you to be my boyfriend. I want you to be my husband, but I just want the ring. And some people are like that. But you could be like, I just want the ring, but I don't want the relationship. I don't want to talk about feelings. I don't want you to actually like go on dates or anything like that. Can you imagine? And yet, that's what we find ourselves doing to God so much of the time. We say, I'm a follower of Jesus, but does your life look like it? Do you have the relationship to validate the title? And so Paul's going in, and I think for us today, like Paul specifically even says, you call yourselves Jews are relying on God's law. Think about it today. You who call yourselves Christians say, yeah, I don't have sex because the Bible says so. I don't drink because the Bible says so. Okay, we'll keep going. And he says, you boast about your relationship with him. I know, I've been on Instagram. Jesus follower, Sandals Church, SCY, which I love that. Keep doing that. And then it says, you know what he wants because you've taught it, but you don't live like it. That is so us. How much do we find ourselves living like that, where we live with the title, but not the actual relationship? Maybe because you go to church. Maybe because your parents go to church. Maybe because when you were born, your parents did have relationships with God. Some of us would say, oh, I've always been a Christian, Some of us go to youth group every single Wednesday. Some of us are in small groups every single Wednesday. And again, maybe you're not bad. Maybe you don't drink. Maybe you don't steal. Maybe you don't gossip. But Paul is saying that is not enough. It's just not. And listen, here's what really gets me. If we're honest, that's probably either what we view religion as or what we've let our faith turn into. Let me repeat that again. Like, if we're honest, this idea of the title but not the relationship, I know that's what I viewed religion as, that all these people say this stuff, but they don't actually back it. And the worst part is there have been times in my faith where I've let my faith turn into that. But there are so many different religions in the world, so I want to harp on that a little bit, because typically the way religions work are this. Don't be a deal breaker, Don't be a deal breaker because inner peace is at stake. Don't be a deal breaker because salvation is at stake. Don't be a deal breaker because karma is at stake. So here's what happens. We end up anchoring our faith in our behavior. That's what happens. We end up doing that. And this is why Paul's going in saying it needs to be more, and it never works out if we anchor our faith in our behavior. It just doesn't, because it means most people are going to end up being hypocritical, and here's what I want you guys to hear. Your behavior was never meant to anchor your faith. It just wasn't. And truthfully, I don't think that you need me to tell you that. I really don't. I think inside, if you're honest with yourself, your soul knows my behavior is not enough. Is that not culture? That I'm trying to do all the things. I'm doing what I'm supposed to, but yet I still feel like there's a void. I still do. And maybe you're not religious at all. Maybe you don't believe in Jesus. I guarantee you the things in culture that you're faced against, or the pressures in life that are pressing up against you, the things like not knowing what your value is, maybe not feeling enough, not knowing what your identity is, not knowing, man, what am I eventually going to contribute to the world? Like, these are all real things that remind us that our behavior, what we do, was never meant to be the anchor for our faith. But here is the difference. That every other religion, there's a problem. Kind of just what I explained. Broken systems, broken marriages, broken families, brokenness that you feel in and of yourself. Every religion says, hey, there's a solution. But here's the difference. Every other religion says, there is a solution to this problem. But here's the pathway. And actually, it usually goes like this. Here's the pathway. And that's, you kind of hear that. Every religion leads to the same thing. And when you look at it like that, yeah, Every religion does lead to the same thing, but this is where Christianity is different. And this is why this difference will make a difference and change everything for you. And it's this: Christianity is the only religion where the solution wasn't something that we were supposed to live up to, but the solution came to us. The only religion where our solution to the problem, not just the problems of life, but the soul-wrenching problem that even you might know a deeper depth than anyone you've ever shared with, the only solution is that our solution came to us, and that's through Jesus Christ. So here's the second thing that I want you guys to know. Relationship, second point, relationship is what makes heart change happen. Relationship. Not just relationships with people, but a relationship with our solution, Jesus Christ. The fact that, yes, our religion is the only one where the God that we worship, the God that has all the solutions, made himself man. Think about that. He sacrificed everything that he had. He sacrificed being out of this imperfect world, out of the darkness, out of the pain, out of the hurt. And he actually said, no, I want to step into it so that I can step into it with you. So that actually I can be the one to carry all of those things, the brokenness that you feel. That is the difference. And the beautiful thing is that relationship with him is what can make heart change happen. And at the end of Romans chapter 2, that's what Paul is talking about. He says the only true Jew is one whose heart is changed. You see? And here's what's honest. For me, I think there's a lot that I didn't know. There's a lot about religion and stuff that I didn't know. But the one thing that I did know was how deep my hurt was. The one thing that I did know was how stuck in my sin and stuck in the bad habits that I have that I thought I could never get out of. The things that I know were how deeply confused I felt about my life. Like, I don't know what the point of it is. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know who I'm supposed to be. That, yeah, I didn't know all the things that there were to know about God or Christianity or what it actually looks like. But let me tell you this, all the pains that I did know were enough to let me know that I want something different, that I need something different. And I wonder if some of you are sitting there today, maybe thinking, I don't know all this stuff about Christianity, but I do know how I'm getting eaten alive by everything that I know in my life. Do you need something different? And another real deal breaker for me, just in this journey that God had me in, was that, okay, I'm in it. This person of Jesus, God made himself man to be in a relationship with me. Through relationship is where heart change can happen. Another deal breaker for me was that, cool, I'm bought in, but I know I'm going to fail. Like, I can't just commit this 100-year life to being perfect. Like, I can't do that. I know. But I want you guys to hear me say this. This is your next point. The goal is not to live a perfect life. The goal is to live from a perfect life. I'm going to repeat that again. The goal is not to live a perfect life. The goal is to live from a perfect life. And the only way to do that, SCY, is in a relationship with Jesus. And we know this, like the relationships that we're in with people, they change things about us. Like if you're in a dating relationship, girls, I know not all of you guys are sports fanatics, but a lot of guys are. I've seen it with video games or vice versa, where all of a sudden you find yourself like on the Nintendo Switch and you're just like gaming out or whatever. Like you didn't start the relationship that way. It's because someone you cared about also cared about that. So you started to change. The same things happen with God, but in ways that we wouldn't even imagine. See? And when I learned this idea that God is not just after my behavior, God is after my heart, because relationships might motivate us, but a relationship with Jesus will transform you. And when I learned this, I learned that the deal breakers I had were actually deal breakers with religion, not Jesus. And again, I wonder if some of you feel that same way. What are some of the deal breakers that you have with God are actually with religion and not with Jesus? Because this difference that Christianity is from every other religion is the difference that matters, because it means it's actually possible to live a life for Christ in a culture that doesn't. And so with that, I want to conclude with this idea that I just gave you a bunch of different points, you know? And over the next several weeks, we're gonna be diving deeper what Paul is telling to something that actually relates with us a lot. Like, how do we do this in a world that doesn't? And so I want you guys to think about these points over the next few weeks, that Christianity is about relationship, that relationship is what makes heart change happen, that God is after your heart, and that the goal is not to live a perfect life, but to live from a perfect life. That Jesus did not say, hey, I need you to be perfect. He said, I was. He actually says, you are a deal breaker, and I still want you. Nothing about you will ever change the way I feel about you. Nothing you've done, nothing you do, nothing you're gonna do. I want you, I'm in it, and that's why I came to you. That's what Christianity is. But here's the last point that I want you guys to remember through every single week, and it's this. Jesus is after progression and not perfection. This week, I want you guys to think about that. What does that look like in your life? That Jesus is actually after just progression, meaning just take a step. He's not asking you to be perfect. He's just asking you to step to him. You know why? Because he was perfect. Take a step toward perfection. Jesus is perfection, not yours. And here's the coolest thing about God is that the gospel isn't just something that saves you from what was. It gives you life for what is. And I'm telling you, when you live your life for Jesus, it will be something that you wouldn't have ever been able to imagine. And so this week, how can this make a difference for you in your life? How does this truth of Jesus is after my progression, not my perfection? Maybe 2021, you're like, I want to start reading my Bible. I want to do the reading plan with the church, but I keep screwing up. Hey, listen, God knew you would. That's why he sent his son to die on the cross for you. Just start. You know, maybe you have some bad habits in relationships with people. Maybe it's not where you want it to be. Just start, make a change. Maybe just start with confession. Maybe just ask someone for accountability. I don't know what that looks like. You know, maybe it's just with your own integrity. Maybe you do think to yourself, oh, no one's gonna find out. Maybe the progression that Jesus is after this week in your life is saying, no one else will find out, but I know. And watch what that does in your heart and in your life. Because again, Jesus is after progression, not perfection. And that's what separates Christianity from every other religion, that we're not to live a perfect life, but we get to live from a perfect life. And SCY, it changes everything. You guys, I'm so grateful that I got to kick it with you today. And in your groups, I want you guys to dive deeper in what can this difference look like in my life this week. And I really want to challenge you to carry that truth into every single week as we talk about big topics and just focus on the progression, not perfection. I love you guys. Enjoy time in groups.
Wow, what an amazing message from Vivi. The one thing that we value most here at Sandals Church Youth is being connected in a community group. And if you're not in a group yet, I want to highly encourage you to get plugged into a group. There's going to be a number on the screen right now that you can text to get plugged into a group right away. YouTube is where our content lives, and we would love for you to like this video, to comment down below if something has impacted you, and to share it with a friend. And I just want you to walk away knowing one thing, that we love you guys, and we care about you, and that you belong here. And we'll see you back next week.